So let's take an example to understand how financial modeling works. Clear? हम बहुत सिंपल एक एग्जांपल लेंगे. अज्यूम करते हैं आप एक गेमिंग अरीना लॉन्च करना चाहते हो, ठीक है? A physical business which has small arenas where you are inviting people for either entertainment or gaming, or maybe some ceremonies or some movies, or some experiences. All right. So you have a physical business, you have physical spaces where you'll maybe sell tickets, or you do online marketing, and you will have multiple different experiences for the people as different products to be sold. Okay. Now, how will the financial modeling for this business look like? And we'll cover unit economics, say from sales to all the margins, right? Last में हमारे पास कितना पैसा हाथ में बचता है. फिर हम ये कवर करेंगे कि इस बिजनेस को लॉन्च करने के लिए मेरे को कितना पैसा डालना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? फ्रंट what amount of capital is getting invested to launch one such arena. Okay. And third, we'll also discuss that now we know what the unit economics and what my final margin will look like. मेरे हाथ में कितना पैसा बचेगा at the end of every month or at the end of every year. और मैंने देख लिया कि एक अरीना को लॉन्च करने के लिए अपफ्रंट कैपिटल कितना लगेगा, तो मेरे को ये पता है कि मेरा ब्रेक इवन को बोलेंगे, मेरा जितना पैसा मैंने लगाया था उतना पैसा मेरे हाथ में वापस कितने महीनों में या कितने सालों में आ गया, मेरे को ये पता चल जाएगा. उसके बेसिस पे हम आगे चलेंगे ईयर ऑन ईयर प्रोजेक्शन या ग्रोथ की प्रोजेक्शन करने के लिए कि कब मैं एक अरीना से 2 अरीना पे जा पाऊंगा, 2 से 4 अरीना पे जा पाऊंगा, 7-10 अरीना पे जा पाऊंगा, और उसके लिए मुझे कितना पैसा रिक्वायर्ड होगा और वो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा. ओके. अरे यार. ठीक है. सो हम अभी एक एक्सेल शीट देख रहे हैं, ठीक है, जहाँ पे मैंने हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स को डाला. मैं आपको वॉक थ्रू कराता हूँ, एग्जाम्पल लेता हूँ. आपने अपना जो गेमिंग अरीना लॉन्च करा है, ठीक है, उसमें आपने फॉर एग्जांपल काउंटर स्ट्राइक जैसा आपने कोई बैटल या कोई जैसे गन गन शूटिंग का गेम होता है, जैसे पेंट बॉल का गेम होता है, उस तरीके से आपने फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स जस्ट रीनेम दिस टू पेंट बॉल. ओके. और लाइक अ काउंटर स्ट्राइक अरीना दैट यू हैव क्रिएटेड. एंड नाउ व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज, मेरे को एक्सपेक्टेड है कि जब लोग पेंट बॉल या काउंटर स्ट्राइक खेलने आ रहे हैं तो लोग ग्रुप्स में आ रहे हैं, राइट? दे आर कमिंग टुगेदर विद देयर फ्रेंड्स, either office friends, and they are coming in maybe an average group size of 6 people. They could come in sizes of 4 or 10. The average group size is 10, is 6. Okay. And each person, the ticket price per person is around 900 rupees, which is a very nominal price if you look at the prices of, say, paintball, if you look at the 10-minute pricing for a go-kart track also, right? They charge anywhere around that. So you're saying 6 people would come when a group comes, and you're charging 900 per person. And in a month, you are assuming, let's assume that 15 days you'll see one booking at least. Okay, so you'll see one group come every 15 days from in a month. So you have 50% occupancy for that particular product in the span of a month. Now your monthly revenue from the paintball product becomes obviously just as very simple multiplication of 900 into 6 people into 15 days, right? Which comes out to be around 81,000 rupees. Awesome. Similarly, you think about, say, more product lines in your arena, right? You think of maybe putting up an ice bucket challenge. You, for couples, maybe place a stargazing kind of a product so that they can stay on the property for the night and just look at the stars, right? You have maybe movie nights, and then you have more um, say experience based or other experience based or ceremony based products. For example, you're also giving a hall in the arena for birthday parties, okay, or for, let's say, a kids play day or other ceremonies, right? So you're thinking, okay, when I'm giving out the place for a birthday party, typically in a month I'll get maybe three bookings. In each booking will cost, will earn me around 10,000 rupees. So what you do here is you understand your revenue for the month. You have your various product lines. You expect the number of people that are coming, or the per person sales, the per person price that you'll be able to charge, right? And then in the month, the number of things that will get sold, and you come to your final uh, revenue numbers for each product line. And hence now what you have in hand, कि यार अगर मैं एक महीने इस प्रॉपर्टी का ऑपरेट करता हूँ इतने प्रोडक्ट्स के साथ, तो मैं करीब 2.5 lakhs 2.49 lakhs रुपीस मैं महीने के अर्न करूंगा। ये मेरी प्रॉपर्टी, मेरा बिजनेस, मेरा एंटरटेनमेंट बिजनेस, मेरा गेमिंग एरिना 2.5 lakhs मंथली पैसे अर्न करेगा। ओके, इसके आगे हमने अभी अपना सेल्स देख लिया। किसी भी यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स, किसी भी फाइनेंशियल मॉडलिंग में हम हमेशा सबसे पहले सेल्स देखने से शुरू करते हैं। जब आपने अपना रेवेन्यू सेल्स देख लिया, उसके बाद आप आते हैं अपने कॉस्ट आइटम्स पे। ठीक है, अब हम कॉस्ट आइटम्स पे चलेंगे। ओके, सो लेट्स गो टू आवर फर्स्ट काइंड ऑफ कॉस्ट, विच आर वेरिएबल कॉस्ट्स। वेरिएबल कॉस्ट का मतलब होता है, जब भी मैं, मान लो मैंने एक चिप्स का पैकेट बनाया, मेरा चिप्स का पैकेट 100 रुपये का बिकता है क्योंकि गौरमेंट चिप्स में बनाता हूँ। उस चिप्स को बनाने के लिए मेरे को 30, 35, 40 रुपये खर्चने पड़ते हैं, फूड कॉस्ट, पैकेजिंग कॉस्ट, लेबलिंग कॉस्ट मिला के। ठीक है, जब भी मैं एक नया प्रोडक्ट बनाता हूँ, उस प्रोडक्ट को बनाने के लिए जितना मुझे इमीडिएट खर्चा आता है, जिसके बिना मैं वो प्रोडक्ट नहीं बना पा रहा, उन कॉस्ट को मैं वेरिएबल कॉस्ट में गिनता हूँ। ठीक है, यहाँ पे अगर मैं एक प्ले अरीना लॉन्च कर रहा हूँ, तो मुझे पता है कि मे बी जब मैं पेंट बॉल, लेट मी जस्ट अगेन रीनेम दिस टू पेंट बॉल, जब मैं पेंट बॉल का प्रोडक्ट का मैं सेशन चलाता हूँ, तो आई हैव द कॉस्ट ऑफ the bullets, the paint bullets that I have, and in this model I'm assuming that that cost will be 10% of my income that I've generated from one session of the paintball. So if I have sold the paintball session to 10 people and they've played it out, and the revenue that I've earned was 10,000 rupees, I'm assuming a 10% cost for the bullets that get spent in that play time. Okay, so that comes out to 1,000 bucks. And in this example, we have said that, okay, we are earning 81,000 rupees a month, and so the paintballs that the cost that will come to me for these paintballs at 10% will be 8,100 bucks. Similarly, we just assume our costs for all these products that are getting sold throughout the month, and we come to a total cost of around 28,000 rupees. Now again, what is this 28,000 rupees? Without this 28,000 rupees, my product will not exist. If I don't buy those paintballs, if I say don't buy the ice bucket, or if I don't buy, for example, if I'm spending on decor in the movie nights that I'm selling out, right? I have to spend on the decor, maybe on the Netflix subscription that I'm giving, that I'm having, right? So I have to spend that money to be able to produce that 45 bucks to produce that 100 rupees ka chips ka packet. That is my variable cost. The next type of costs that come are okay, before the next type of costs, this variable cost gives us the gross margin. Gross margin is simply sales minus all your variable costs, is your first margin. First margin का नाम gross margin होता है, nothing else. Okay, so when you have your sales and when you minus your variable costs, you get your gross margin of around again. Okay, so now let's come to understanding the gross margin. Gross margin is very simply when you have your top level sales and you have your variable costs, आपने उसको माइनस करके जितना भी पैसा आपके हाथ में बचा उसको ग्रॉस मार्जिन का नाम दिया जाता है, जस्ट as simple as that. ठीक है, so the first money that lands in your hand is your gross margin. Awesome. This in this example, the gross margin, the cost of goods that we sold was at around 28,000 rupees. The sales that we had done was of 2.5 lakhs approx, right? So the gross amount of money that gets left out after we subtract these two is around 2,20,000 rupees, or 2 lakh around 21,000 rupees. Yeah. So our gross margin becomes, obviously, say 2,20,000 is around 88% of our 2.5 lakhs. So whenever somebody asks, okay, what is a gross margin percentage? This is what this means. You have to understand your gross in hand. Next, there are more types of costs, obviously. So the next cost in hand that you will experience is, obviously, when you are selling, when you're attracting people to come to your arena, come to your property, you're obviously doing marketing, right? Either it's you're inviting people by yourself from your friends network, or you're doing more promotional paid marketing methods where you have to spend money, right? Those costs are the other variable costs. Okay, again, without those marketing costs, your product would have not been sold, right? Now we just keep that in a separate header so that we're able to understand, okay, these are my product manufacturing costs and these are my product marketing costs. So we just keep them in different headers, and the first header becomes the gross margin, and then the second header becomes the cumulative margin. After that is what we have our fixed costs. Now that you know, एक प्रोडक्ट को बेचने के लिए मुझे कुल मिला के इतनी सारी कॉस्ट पड़ी प्रोडक्ट की, और प्रोडक्ट को मार्केट करने की, प्रोडक्ट को मैन्युफैक्चर करने की और मार्केट करने की ये सारी कॉस्ट पड़ी, हाथ में मेरे पास फाइनली कितना क्यूमुलेटिव मार्जिन बच के आया? मेरे पास 1,55,000 का क्यूमुलेटिव मार्जिन बच के आया। ठीक है, उसके बाद आता है मेरा फिक्स कॉस्ट। यार आप प्रॉपर्टी चला रहे हो, आपने वो खरीदी नहीं हुई, आप उसका रेंटल पे कर रहे हो, आपने वहाँ पे 3 बंदे रखे हुए हैं, और आप वहाँ पे आई थिंक मार्केटिंग मैंने इंक्लूड कर रखा है, सो मे बी अदर यूटिलिटीज में आप ये सब डिलीट करना होगा यहाँ से। ठीक है, सो मे बी मार्केटिंग मैंने लिखा हुआ है, लेट मी जस्ट रीनेम दैट टू अदर्स। अदर्स में मतलब आप सब मिला के अपने फिक्स कॉस्ट में आप करीब 1,11,000 रुपये खर्च रहे हो। ठीक है, अब आते हैं हम फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट पे। हमने देख लिया कि यार मेरे को प्रोडक्ट बनाने के लिए और प्रोडक्ट को मार्केट करने के लिए, प्रोडक्ट को बेचने के लिए मेरे को ये टोटल कॉस्ट लगी, जो कि मेरी ग्रॉस, जो मेरे को ग्रॉस मार्जिन जिसने मेरे को बताया, फाइनली मेरे को क्यूमुलेटिव मार्जिन बताया। इसके बाद एक एग्जिस्ट करता है नेट मार्जिन। नेट मार्जिन को पता करने के लिए आपको अपनी फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट माइनस करनी पड़ती है। आपने प्रॉपर्टी, आप जितनी सारी अपनी एक्टिविटीज अपनी प्रॉपर्टी पे कर रहे हो, प्रॉपर्टी आपने रेंट करी हुई है, आपने वहाँ लेबर रखी हुई है, आपने वहाँ स्टाफ रखा हुआ है। ठीक है, आपको उसकी कॉस्ट, लेट्स सी व्हाट आर द कॉस्ट इन्वॉल्व फॉर दैट। फॉर एग्जांपल, द कॉस्ट्स फॉर दोज आर around 35,000, and you're paying a rent of maybe 30,000 bucks, and there are other costs also involved. Let's maybe take them at miscellaneous costs at maybe 10,000 rupees. Okay, so fixed costs in this case become 75,000 bucks. Okay, which again will get minus obviously from your cumulative margin. जितना पैसा मेरे पास प्रोडक्ट को मैन्युफैक्चर करने के बाद, मार्केट करने के बाद बचा था, उसमें से फिर मैंने सैलरीज, रेंट और बाकी सारी कॉस्ट पे करी, और मेरे पास नेट मार्जिन निकल के आया। नेट इन हैंड फाइनली जितना मेरे पास पैसा बच रहा है वो मेरे पास निकल के आया, सारे अपने एक्सपेंसेस माइनस करने के बाद। awesome. Now we've obviously करने के बाद, now we've obviously not mentioned the founder salary themselves, right? So that also is a cost which gets paid out from our gross margins, from our margins overall, right? let's just say there are two co-founders which are taking a very minimal salary of 20,000 a month each. Right? That also gets minused from what we had in hand, and the expenses. Let me just add that money. Yeah. So the founders are taking away 40,000 rupees. All expenses from the top till the founder incomes, founder salaries also uh, land up to be about 2,81,000 rupees. All expenses from the top to the founder salaries land up to be about 2,08,000 rupees, right? And then the balance in hand, the final reserve cash, let's just name it reserve cash in hand that you get left with, is you've sold for 2.5 lakhs worth of your monthly revenue was 2.5 lakhs, you incurred expenses of 2 lakh 8,000 rupees, then the final reserve cash that you have now in hand is around 40,900 or yeah, 41,000 rupees. Okay. Now, why is this 41,000 rupees? Understanding this 41,000 rupees very important. Okay. This was the entire working for your unit economics. Your unit economics is very important. Why? Because it tells you how much can you scale this business. You are able to understand on every unit sold what is the final reserve cash that you are left with in hand. This reserve cash, this balance, is is the money that you pay your growth. This reserve cash is what you plan your growth with. If you have 40,000 rupees left in hand, that is the money that you will now maybe spend in more marketing, maybe in more hiring, maybe in launching more products or just buying more guns for your arena, right? But this reserve cash acts as the cash for your growth, even for the growth, of new centers. But right now, before getting into new centers, we have to work, we have to understand that when we launched this entire property of ours, we had to put up some capital upfront to be able to buy the guns, to be able to pay the people at least for 3 months when there was no rent, to pay, no revenue, right? To pay the rent for at least 3 months when there was no revenue, to do the marketing, to do maybe a heavier marketing in the beginning, again to the time when there was no revenue, right? So when you start the business, there are typically two types of costs. One cost is that you have to set up the materials, the manufacturing, maybe the guns here or the decor here, or maybe to facelift the rooms, right? You have to spend on the product itself. And the other cost when you're starting the business, right, is your 3 to 4 to maybe even 6 months when till the time you're not seeing any revenue. But your fixed costs, like your rentals, maybe the staff which is working with you, that are the expenses that you're still bearing, right? So these two costs add up as your initial capital requirement. Let's see what was the capital requirement here. Okay, so for example, um, you've launched the paintball um activity, and for that paintball activity, you've gotten 10 guns, each for 10,000 rupees. For example, you've gotten airsoft guns, right? Those cost maybe 10,000 bucks, and you've bought 10 of them. So a lakh rupees is what you have to spend first to be able to just put that product out. Similarly, maybe for birthdays, you had to renovate a hall. Maybe for kids' day play, you have to maybe renovate an entire lawn and put some swings or put some very playful items for the kids, right? Very attractive items for the kids. Ice bucket challenge you to invest maybe in a small portable pool, and so on and so forth, right? Maybe you to also set up a CCTV camera in your entire facility, right? You have to facelift a room. You to also pay for at least 3 months of marketing in advance, so that there is some traction that you start seeing in your bookings, right? Your staff, at least again for 3 months, you maybe had to pay upfront, or you just bear those costs, rental costs, initial promotion costs, right? So the upfront capital that you need to invest in the materials, in the setup, or in the manufacturing, and in the fixed costs till you see no revenue. Here it comes out to be around 5.25 lakhs, right? This capital expense becomes very important when you understand this with the previous reserve cash that you start earning month on month in hand, because the reserve cash is the cash with which you pay back the upfront capital that you maybe loaned, or maybe the capital that you loan or that you put up by yourself, right? That is how you understand when will this business reach break even for me. What break even means is very simply कितना पैसा मैंने लगाया था बिजनेस में, अराउंड 5 लाख 20 हजार 25 हजार रुपए, मेरे को महीने के 40 हजार, एक 41,000 रुपीज मेरे को बचते हैं. It will take me around 1 year 3 months, 1 year, 1 year 1 month to be able to get back that 5.25 lakhs from this monthly reserve cash that I earn after all expenses paid. So after a period of 1 year 1 month is when my business investment has now given me my return on investment, and now whatever money I make is the money I can start expending for growth, for the further growth. Okay. Now, when you understood unit economics, you understood break even years. Okay. Now, when you understood unit economics, you understood your upfront capital requirements, you understood how that calculates back into your break even period. Okay, now that you understood unit economics, you understood the cash that you're left with in hand, right? You understood now what break even period is and how. No, 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 no. Okay, so now that you've understood, okay, so so now you've understood what unit economics are. You understood what reserve cash in hand means. You understood what is the total upfront capital that you will require to start up your business, and you've understood what a break-even period is, what a break-even period means. Right? Now you will get into year-on-year sales forecasting. Your yearly planning for your business. How will the business look like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line? Right? How big of a business can this be? And you will see what amount of capital and maybe outside investment I will require to be able to take this business on that path. Awesome. So we'll go back to the Excel now. And in year one, when you have one arena, okay, when you have, let me just say, this has property also, right? You have one property. You were making around 40,900 rupees a month as the cash that you were earning back, right? So the yearly balance, yearly reserve cash that you're now making, yearly net cash that you're now making out is around 4,90,000 bucks, right? And remember, this has to go back into maybe paying back your loan or just breaking the business even right now. Okay, and I'll discuss afterwards that this cash actually, the cash actually is not going out of your pocket to repay your own individual investment at the moment. But that's a different topic. We'll cover that in profits versus cash. For now, you've made 4,90,000 bucks, with which you're breaking even your 5,25,000 upfront investment, and you're doing that for 1 year up to 1 year 1 month or 1 year 3 months. Now, in the second year is when you would want to maybe you've planned to launch another property when the first property has now done break even. So if now in the second year you have two properties, you are obviously making double the amount of the 40,000 4,90,000. So you're making around 10 lakh rupees in your reserve, in a final cash in hand, right? And so on. You keep improving. You 5 years down the line, you keep expanding your properties, and so your revenue, your top line also expands. But in order to do so, this looks like the basic sales planning, right? This is the basic revenue planning. Now, in order to do this, once you've even maybe paid up the upfront capital for the first property, again now to launch the second property, you require that upfront investment again. We've calculated it was, the number was at 5.25 lakhs, right? Now another property, if you want to launch another property, again that same amount of capital is required, and so on. For the next 5 years, you require capital for all the 10 properties that you're about to launch. So every property after the first year of its life will now give you 40,000 amount, 40,000 in hand, that you can start using for further marketing and further expansion. Every property in its first year of life cycle will require an upfront investment, and the money that will be earned will go back to the repayment of that upfront capital. So only from the second year is when the property will start giving you money to invest more and more in growth. Now this is where funding comes in. Okay, because you have to go fast, because you have to also go fast both in terms of expanding the number of properties that you have and individually growing the marketing spend and the revenue that you're getting on that property. For both these things is now when you need a capital influx, a capital injection. Okay, and then exactly this is when you go out and you have a product market fit, you have initial traction, you have initial sales, you have a product that works, right? You have customers that you've spoken to that have come and experienced your product. You have transactions in your profit and loss statement, right? You know your margins also, right? Now, in your expansion phase is when you reach out, you start understanding that, all right, to be able to go to 3 properties, my upfront investment will be this much, and obviously to maybe grow the existing 2 or 3 properties that I'm running, I will need upfront marketing expenses or labor hiring expenses, which will come out to be this much. You plan that maybe for 5 or 6 years, and that is how you understand the capital that you will require for the growth phase of the next 5 years, and that is how you approach raising funding.